Good evening and welcome to another edition of MTV Community Forum. I'm your host Byron Campbell, and of course our co-host Chris Diali. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Byron. You want to be the guest?
I'm telling you, we have an interesting guest.
Listeners and viewers this evening, we thank you again for allowing us into your rooms to watch your program.
Yes, and Chris, we have the start of the hurricane season, and our special guest this evening is the head of NACMA, Mr. Dr. Terence Walters, and we'll have him later. Chris, I want to start with this evening in our chat section on agriculture. A number of issues there. One, very popular, we have now the scale insects affecting a lot of our crops right now. Soursop, mangoes, and other crops, but particularly soursop, which is a very important export crop, is an income earner. Cause for concern here again.
Yeah, cause for concern. And I mean, I want to add to that the infestation of the red multipede that we saw in the south and still in the south, and as we're coming back. The only thing in the red multipede is that it doesn't seem to be affecting produce and plants. It's just as a nuisance in the volume that's there. But the scale insect, cotton scale insect, which I understand is affecting soursop and cloves and mangoes and so on, is more significant. And I'm hearing that agriculture have been looking at this. It seems to have come from Florida, and they want to know bring in bugs. Ladybug.
Yeah.
To deal with it, just as how we had the thing with the coconut trees.
Yeah.
You know, so it is it's something that is serious, and I hope that we can get it under control soon.
Because if you don't have a very good regime, it means that it's going to affect your production.
Because the spraying, I think they had announced that you could spray it with neem oil.
Yeah.
But then that is something that had to be done every week or something like that. So for farmers, that is an onerous.
So it's a problem. I'm aware of it. I've seen it, and you can see how it's affecting production, the quality of the fruit, and so forth. But also, Chris, we have other pests. We have the South American parrot, for example.
Yes.
It has no natural predators. It has a long life. I think I was told 50 years at least. It's a problem, and it's multiplying rapidly, and it's a pest. Why? Because mangoes, general fruits.
It attacks the fruits, and they just pick it and throw it on the ground, and golden apples,
so
everything.
How do we? And we got this because it was first in the National Zoo. Zoo closed, they got away, and they multiplied. So that's a problem for us.
Well, I think we could engage people like the Rifle Association who could come in and do some culling.
Yeah.
Because the population is out of control now, and farmers suffer significantly. They do that with oranges, they do that with grapefruit.
Any fruit that's available in season.
And they're coming in a flock. Flock of them come in and attack the tree. So I think that's something that through the ministry and through whatever conservation agency, we need to call them and have human intervention. I don't think they could eat them, but I mean, they need to control.
So it is something that we need to pay close attention to. It affects livelihoods. Chris, the court system. Of course, the OECD has introduced into the court system mediation. And I'm told, I think it was Dr. Alexis who said that they have a success rate of 60+%, which is quite high. And in this mediation session now, the court is not adjudicating the matter. The parties come together, and there's less cost because they can find a solution among themselves. But how well this is going as a mediator yourself? How well this is going? Is it working in terms of the not just bureaucracy, but the structures to support it?
I think two things here. Quite a while now, we've been trying to get a physical center to start back doing mediation. I think since COVID, the last center we had was closed and had a lot of issues structurally. And there's a new center being developed on the Clico building, what used to be the Clico building on Young Street. But since last year, we have been promised, and nothing seems to be materializing. I mean, last year, September, October, we were supposed to move in. Now it's June, and we're not hearing. And the issue with it is that we do mediation now via a digital platform.
Okay.
Right, where you're getting on a Zoom platform and you do it. But that takes away from, some of the mediations in terms of physical presence, because you could physically watch somebody and
Makes
you could monitor. Yes,
it's
a difference.
Yes.
And you know when to go and huddle and so on.
Yeah.
But even more concerning, We have had mediations in recent times because of the platform where parties don't sign immediately. And then they come back and say they ain't signing again. I suppose when they go home and they sleep on what they agree on. And that has happened in recent past with a few mediations. So it's something we need to pay close attention to. Because we need to get back into the system of having mediation physically, where we see parties and you can watch a man in the eye or a lady in the eye and know when to move and when not to move. So something I'm hoping the Attorney General could use her powers that be to get us to complete this thing. Because I am told that the center is almost physically, structurally complete, but there are still some areas that need to be,
So
addressed.
kudos for that, because it's really important. Chris, what is called the African Export-Import Bank, in partnership with the government of Grenada, announced that about the 4th edition of the Afri-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum. This is going to be held in Grenada, July 28 and 29. The bank say this is to drive commercial, economic, and cultural ties between Africa and the Caribbean. And part of why they're going to this, of course, the bank is establishing a new headquarters in Barbados, in Bridgetown. But what the president said, which was interesting, he said that when you look at all the export, all the business between Africa and the Caribbean, the volume of their business, less than 1% is traded between Africa and the Caribbean. So they want to fix that. Is it possible? And how important is this forum?
Well, I think it is important from a couple of points. The first one is that the Caribbean need to look for other trading partners and develop trade and commerce and economic prosperity, hopefully. Africa is a huge country with a lot of nations that have very special things, whether it's manufacturing or culture or whatever it is. So it is good to develop that and give us some options, because remember, Trump 2.0, our options are getting more limited from the standpoint that he's putting on so much trade barriers and trade issues that we as a Caribbean community need to look elsewhere to protect ourselves. So that is the first one. The second one is that I think the challenge we're going to face, and I hope it's addressed in the 2 days trade investment seminar that we have in meeting, is that transport, whether it's by air or by shipping, seems to be not as secured and not as dependable as we need it. So you will go to the US and buy stuff, and Tropical and them comes here every week. But with Africa, the distance and going through on the south side and so on, whether they're going through the Cape or they're going through the Panama Canal, it is going to be something a little tricky for us to get it, and the cost of goods to be delivered. So even flights into and out, I think Barbados is the only one that have a direct flight, if I'm not mistaken. So there is a lot of issues around transport that need to be discussed and developed, so it could attract businesses to go and look at what the African continent offers and how we could start developing trade ties. For us in business, that's a major thing.
Well, what is interesting, Chris, this is the 4th edition, the 4th one. The first was Barbados, then you had Guyana. But interesting, and Bahamas. In the Bahamas last year, they had over 3,000 delegates, and they signed deal MOUs worth, I think, $4 billion, in terms of the business. I mean, but what's interesting that Grenada, we expect as much as 1,000 delegates, and what they have also announced that they would spotlight some key sectors: agribusiness, energy, infrastructure development, creative industries, which is interesting, tourism, health, and manufacturing, financial services. So I think this is good for Grenada, showcase what we have, and we'll hear more about this as time goes.
The only thing I'd have added there is the blue economy.
The blue economy.
I think the blue economy is significant
for us, yes.
And I don't know what kind of business is going to be attracted in the blue economy. And that is something we should put on the list, if nothing else. I mean, we have other things that we have there that we currently engage in, and how Afrexim Bank is going to assist us to develop these areas through financing and other commercial things. So it is something to look forward to, I think. it is good from the standpoint that we're expanding our trade partners, and that is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Chris, we got gold for Grenada. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I know, but it is a big deal. We need to congratulate the main actors there, the participants, the people who put it all together. It's a platform for global recognition. We should be able to attract visitors from around the world, and generate economic benefits through tourism and sales. But the question is, are we maximizing on our successes in this event in terms of trade and plants, garden products, design export, tourism, and other economic benefit? Are we? Because this is a big deal. So how are we maximizing?
It's 18 years now we winning gold at Chelsea.
It's
a phenomenon for a small dot like us.
Yes.
And what we do. I mean, kudos to the creators of the what they do and the exhibit and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But you could question whether we're maximizing it from a touristic point of view and what happens. I mean, if people were to come into Grenada and see the display that was put on in terms of the plants and this and that, and they say it was based on the Carriacou traditions and history. I mean, it is a wonderful thing to see. So I don't know how as a country the GTA could do that. I mean, if we could replicate the thing here, I'm not saying in the airport, it could be somewhere else, put it as part of the tours, that flower enthusiasts could go and say, listen man, we have been winning gold for years, and look at one of our creations this year.
Yeah.
So it is something I think we need to strategize a little more and give the country more bang for the buck. Because once this Chelsea thing finished, that's it. You don't hear anything much about it after that.
Yeah.
But you can't be winning gold 18 years in this show and not be, exquisite in what we do.
I agree.
Just as how we pump pure Grenada, we had to pump.
Absolutely. But congratulations to the organizers. Chris, there is a group of Grenadians. It's called Grenadians for Justice, and they are hosting there's a film that was produced on Gaza. This film is a city lost to genocide, but the name of the film is The Phoenix of Gaza. And it won many awards, and the director, who is a Palestinian, will be in Grenada to show this film at the Trade Center on Saturday, the 7th of June. Is the 7th of June a Saturday or Friday? I'm not sure. What day is it? But on the 7th of June at 5 p.m. at the Trade Center. So this is going to be really, really interesting. To see this film that is talked about, but also in the context of what's presently happening in Gaza. Particularly the children, the starvation. It's difficult to view, it's difficult to comprehend. That the world is not, we talk about this every week, that more is not being done to save their lives. There's no sense. But even we noticed that even the Israelis themselves are demonstrating in Tel Aviv and huge rallies against what's happening. So I think the world is reacting now to this. It's time, So I think this is the context of the film, and I think it'll be interesting for Grenadians to come out. Again, it's the 7th of June at 5 p.m. at the Grenada Trade Center.
I hear you.
Yeah.
And if I think the objective of this film is to sensitize people on what has gone on and continues to go on, I have no difficulty with this, but the issue is, how do we get the world to react to this thing?
Yeah.
Because the players in this, which is the US, the Europeans to some degree, how do we get opinions to change what they're doing with Israel?
Because they can.
Yeah,
and they are the actors there.
We've taken Israel to the international court. We have all kinds of things that we did, and they're not stopping them.
No, it's not.
So I hear about this film. I have no difficulty in the film, but I still question what is going to happen as sensitizing people with this film.
Yeah. Chris, there's a young woman, her name is Aria Ogilvy. She's 3 years old and with leukemia. But I just want to say that something is important. A breakfast has been, they're raising funds for treatment for a breakfast every Saturday at the Tivoli Cemetery Gap. So if you're in the Tivoli area, St. Patrick's area, you can support this very worthy cause. I mean, it's unfortunate, I think, that persons must go to this public kind of fundraising. And the state, we as a people we don't have these resources to immediately respond. But you can support this young woman, and I have a telephone number too, it's 535-4961, 535-4961. So I think that will be important, Chris. Just the other thing, Chris, Grenada Postal Corporation was on strike for 3 days. My own information today is that they've reached a settlement or understanding. The condition of the building is unfit for efficient worker, but from a health point of view also. So there's some arrangement. There's a new facility being prepared for sometime in July. So this is excellent. The strike has ended.
You know, what is interesting is that most of government departments, including post office, is not in the original building. We're renting. We're paying a lot of money in rent. Finance have moved out, structure the building. We have a lot of sick government buildings. And I want to raise this from the point of view that our government, whether it's this one, the next one to come, or the one in the past, don't seem to put any priority on preventative maintenance. ACs, building structure, lights. It just seems to be that we build these new buildings and then we just forget that they have to be maintained. And I don't know how we operate in government like that.
So it ends up costing us more.
Of course. No, we have almost every government department renting somewhere.
Yeah. Chris, I think that's all the time we have.
Well, no, I want to talk about Calivini.
Okay. What about Calivini?
Right. The dumping and
that's where the river runs there.
That's right. And what the guys are, they're backfilling and they're dumping. There's a whole set of material that they drop again.
Okay.
To push back and dump and expand that area. And now they're even pouring concrete in the areas where they have backfilled.
So you believe the Development Authority would have given permission for this to take place?
Well, I can't see how that could happen. And we haven't heard from Developmental Authority on this issue. And when these guys get there and they come to do their trade, it creates serious traffic issues. And I don't know how we could continue. In my view, that seems to be very unlawful. First of all, the dumping. I don't know how we could give permission to dump on the side of the road, because it's on the side of the road. You know, and I
but it's a serious matter.
It's a serious matter, and we just seem to be unlawful in the country, and we just allowing things to happen.
And you see this everywhere, particularly with traffic.
I'm not understanding this, and I don't hear anybody from Development Authority coming and say, oh no, this is not what they're doing there, they're dumping on the side, or we're not allowing this, and they never allow this, and it just keep going on. I don't know, we are strange people.
We see what happens. Viewers, we'll be back with Dr. Terry Walters, head of NAGMA, to discuss, as you know, the hurricane season starts in a couple of days, so we have a lot to talk about on this issue. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
The Mass officially starts now, as Spice Mass Corporation together with Aura Caribbean is turning up the thing all the way up with Carnival City Fusion Thursdays. It all kicks off on Thursday, May 29th and continues every Thursday into June. We're bringing the vibes to the Port Louis Lawn. Gates open 7 p.m. Action starts 8 p.m. Get ready for live performances from your favorite soca, groovy and calypso artists, plus the sweet sounds of steel band, live bands, and all the mass elements you love. Veko, Jab Jab, Shortney, Moko Jumbi, Apache, and more. It's more than a live. It's a whole carnival experience. So grab your crew, bring the energy, and come let's celebrate where culture meets pure excitement. Carnival City Fusion Thursdays, Port Louis Lawn, beginning May 29th and continues every Thursday into June. Come, let's play a mass, cause the thing start.
Laboratories, providing quality care and expertise. Fit for life and allied laboratories. See our in-house doctors and our pharmacies. Get expert care and quality tests. When it comes to your health, you deserve the best. And allied laboratories, we're taking care of Grenada.
Grenada. The road to greatness continues. Catch the senior men's national team live at the Karani James Athletic Stadium for 2 thrilling football clashes. Saturday, May 31st, it's a fiery international friendly as Grenada takes on Anguilla, just $20 admission. Then on Wednesday, June 4, it's our FIFA World Cup qualifier versus the Bahamas, $25 admission. Both matches kick off at 7 p.m. sharp. Come dressed, come loud, come proud. Style your national tee, bring your posters, and show the world you are the 12th man. Let's pack the stadium, flood the stands, and roar together. Get your tickets now at the official GFA ticket outlets. Go to Fed.com or at the gate. Let's stand proud with Team Grenada. One island, one team, one goal.
Viewers, welcome back to Community Forum. As indicated a little earlier, we have with us in studio Dr. Terence Walters, who is heads NADMA now, and is one of the pivotal persons when it comes to discussing what happens in terms of our preparation for the hurricane season coming up. There are a number of areas that we have to look at. So Dr. Walters needs no introduction, quite frankly. He's here with us and has been doing a stellar job in what happens with us getting ready for the season. And even though something was to hit us, how we reacted. So Dr. Walters, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Glad to have you back.
Yes, it's good to be here.
Welcome. Another year has passed.
Yes.
So Doc, let's start off by giving us an idea. I know they have announced that we should have an above average season for this season again. And we have been seeing over the years that systems come through even earlier and even finish later. You know, we have the whole adage about June too soon and October all over. But that seems to be out of it now because of what's happening. So from where you sit, what is the predictions for 2025?
Well, again, we have another above average season in 2025. And so we have to be prepared. Now, again, I always say, if they say the season, there's one hurricane forecast for the season, okay, but that hurricane can hit you and cause devastation. So I prepare whether it's above average, it's below average, or just average. I ask people to prepare.
But above average here means how much named storms and how much hurricanes?
Yes, so in this year, 17 named storms, 9 it will become hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes.
Wow, that is significant.
The average is 14, 14, 7, and 3. Okay, 14. So the normal is just 14, 7, 3. But this year, 17, 9 hurricanes, and 4 major, meaning category 3 and above.
And all of us need to pay attention, including the island chain, and of course the U.S., of course, and Jamaica and them in the Gulf.
That's right.
So that is something for the entire region. We know what happens with systems coming through, even though some go without affecting significantly, but insurance premiums go up. A number of things happen when we have these systems coming through.
Yeah, definitely, because if you're impacted, then you expect a number of changes the next year. So we have to be mindful of that. Like you mentioned, insurance, yes.
And we have been still recovering from Beryl to some degree, from that struck us last year, mainly in the north of our country. How is the recovery in Carriacou and the north of the island going? Because you're hearing a lot of things about, PPA wasn't involved in understanding the structure of some of the houses being built, and that people raise concern among a lot of people. What is from your office, your standpoint, what is happening there?
Well, again, we're into the reconstruction phase. So we've passed through relief, recovery, reconstruction, rehabilitation. And so yes, I know that the Planning and Development Authority was involved. They were in Carriacou very early, very early meeting, and they continue to be involved in what is happening with the reconstruction. So as it relates to them not being involved, I can't confirm that. Okay, but I know that they were in Carriacou very early, and are still in Carriacou working. Yes.
And I think here the concern is following the basic rules, hurricane clips for your roof, and so forth and so on, and the structure, the foundations for certain things, drainage. I mean, those are some of the things that you would want to hope is being looked at as well.
Yes, I mean, what I can say is that some people in the haste or in the rush to have somewhere to stay, right, they may go ahead and build without seeking permission, all right, or probably just do repairs and so. But generally, I know that the Planning and Development Authority is part of the process.
One of the cultural things with Carriacou, not probably so much in Grenada, is that a lot of people didn't have and didn't bother with insurance for construction and what is happening there. Is it a move by your organization to try and get people to understand the need, particularly our elderly? Okay, you know, when you finish paying a mortgage and so on, you tell yourself there's no need for insurance anymore.
Yeah, that is something that we have to continue to educate people on, because like you say, if you finish paying for your property, you think you don't need insurance. But look, Grenada had the insurance with CRIF, and look at the benefits, all right? So we have to continue educating our population that insurance is important. I mean, look at vehicle insurance, all right? You need to have insurance to be on the road. But your house, you don't need to have insurance to live in your house. So people think, well, hey, I don't need it. If I don't owe the bank, I don't need it. But yes, we need to educate people about that.
Yeah, particularly retirees, because when you're at that age and you lose your house, it's difficult to say you go rebuild it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're at that age, you can't start over at that time. Okay, so again, so that is what we need to do, educate our population, in particular retirees.
Yeah, particularly retirees. In terms of shelters, how is the preparation going for your shelters? I know you guys been meeting a lot.
So we've completed the shelter inspection, submitted the list to Cabinet, and we expect approval shortly, and then the list will be released. There are some changes, so there are some new, some buildings that have been added to the list, and some that have been removed and placed as secondary shelters. So that should be out shortly.
One final thing to ask before Byron comes in is that, you know, one of the concerns I have, we have a lot of projects that are going to be starting and going on in this latter half of the year. One that comes to mind is the UK SIF project for Grandans and SOA and all of that. How are we interacting with these projects in order to reduce the vulnerability of stuff that will be on the projects, and how are we protecting ourselves from that? Is that something that NADMA is looking at?
No, I can't say that we are integrally involved in that process. Okay, but it is something that we can look at, you know, because yeah, like you say, we do have quite a lot on these projects, and we need to protect them. So yeah, I think it is something.
And the storage of the stuff, because things can get mobile.
Yeah, that's right.
In a system.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
It's my turn, Chris?
Yes, yes. Always.
Dr. Walters, look, NADMA has come a long way from where it started. You now have your headquarters, professional staff, and the resources you had to respond to the Carriacou burial disaster. But resource constraint is always a factor. Whether there's lack of funding or adequate equipment or having adequate emergency managers or adequate volunteers. But what would you say are the major constraints for you heading this critical, important agency?
I think it's the ability to have professional staff, because we do not have many persons trained professionally in disaster management or emergency management in the country, in Grenada, and sometimes in the region as a whole, okay? So that's one of the major constraints. Now, you can just take anybody and put them at the agency, but for some specialized functions, you need specially trained people, and that's one of our major constraints at this time.
For example, give us an example.
So, for example, project manager. Okay, you need a project manager, somebody who can write projects and somebody who can implement projects. Okay, but finding project managers can sometimes be a little difficult. People with experience. So that's just one example. GIS specialists. Okay, right? Finding GIS specialists for your hazard mapping and all of that can be a bit challenging. So those are some of the specialized areas that we have to look at?
Trump 2.0, Dodge, that is the organization set up in the United States. One of the areas they're cutting or is affect negatively is weather forecasting. They've reduced hundreds, a lot of forecasters. They're reducing the amount of hurricane trackers, those planes that go into the hurricane. They provide important data for you to be more accurate in your forecasting and your prediction. Now, with less data available, what steps are NAGMA taking to mitigate against this shortcoming that the region apparently is going to face?
Well, that gives our governments and CARICOM, it provides an opportunity for our governments to step up to the plate. So where we were lacking before, and we depended on the U.S. and other entities, the region now has to look at putting its own system in place.
But even the
All right.
U.S.
Can we afford that?
Well, we have to find ways to do it, because if the U.S. is not going to do it for us, then what do we do?
So is this part of your conversation now, though? That's the regional conversation. Are you guys aware of this and where the impact is going to be?
Of
where
course.
the shortcomings are?
Of course. So for example, SIDIMA, right, they're aware of this.
As the
And
regional disaster organization.
That's right, okay. So we are aware of that. I mean, there is some capacity. For example, there's CIMH, the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology. They've been doing an excellent job over the years. So they now have to strengthen their abilities, capabilities. And as a region, we have to look for new and innovative ways to enhance our meteorological systems in the region. We have to.
We don't know aircraft that
must.
are flying to
Well, I mean, we don't have.
Hey,
we
these
don't have.
things are
But who says?
expensive. It's specialized, you know what I mean? Like, but are there any been discussion with the U.S. at all from a regional point of view to
But the U.S. themselves is at high risk as well.
But I know the U.S. has. I know the U.S. has decided to provide some assistance. So in terms of the pullback, they have allowed in terms of weather or forecasting and so forth. So that is going. Some of that.
This Trump thing is serious, you know.
Yes.
The other point, Dr. Walters, is look. You even call your organization disaster preparedness, but that's one area of your work. The other area I'm to understand is disaster risk reduction. You know, what program and policies do you have for reducing the reduction of these risks?
Now we have the disaster management legislation. NADMA is going to become a statutory body, which would then give the agency that opportunity to hire professional staff. All right? So you source and hire professional staff, and you're able to work with the population, work with all the entities that work in disaster management, disaster risk reduction, because reducing the risk across the population. We live on the sea coast, we live on the river bank.
Just about
Okay.
Subies,
Okay,
as an example.
right. Yeah. We live in all those places, but we have to do what is necessary to reduce the risk, and we have to educate our population. But there must be a lot of coordination among the various entities. You mentioned Planning and Development Authority, right? And all the other entities that work in disaster management. We need to work together to ensure that we educate our population and take the necessary measures, put them in legislation and implement them so that people can do what
We're
they
not
have
very
to
good
do.
at implementation.
Exactly.
Well, that's true,
And
but it's a process.
And does the authority understand that the UN Agency for Risk Reduction says that every dollar you spend in risk reduction, you save 6 in the disaster management
Right.
part.
And
So,
mitigation,
okay.
mitigation. So it's preventable. So the question in your own program, you're saying that as you move into the statutory
Yes.
aspect of it, you'll be able to move more in this direction.
Yes.
Going there, therefore, logical follow-up. Climate change, we know, is responsible in a big way for this intensified hurricane season. Hurricane gets the energy from the sea. From the hotter the sea
Temperature
is,
changes.
temperature, right?
Yes.
Is the more energy the hurricane has. So climate change, in a general way. So that's a reduction. What aspect of your program interfaces with with those authorities or with those organizations?
So there is some measure of interface with climate change and disaster management, but there is more that can be done, because climate change is causing more intense, more frequent hazards, And so disaster management, we have to manage the disasters, okay, manage that process. So I think we can forge better relationships, and we need to forge better relationships between climate change and disaster management. That has to happen.
And follow up to that, Barry,
go ahead,
is
Chris.
the relief, the speed of relief that needs to come in. Yes, we have this potential insurance now, but if there is a system and there's a disaster, the question is how quickly can we get relief to people that is needed at a time. I mean, I know the relief effort takes part of assessment, and then you go into certain different phases and so on, now in construction, but in Carriacou. But how is it in terms of response rate for your organization to get funds and resources, whether it be human or otherwise?
Well, it depends on what has happened, okay? And for Beryl, it was Carriacou Petite Martinique, so we were able to respond from mainland to them. If mainland is devastated, okay, what we have to do, and we have that in place to the police, is to protect our critical assets, supermarkets, gas stations, places that people may loot. We have to protect these, and if we protect them, after the event, we have supplies on island that could last for a few days, and then for Trinidad is our focal point. Trinidad, we can get some resources from Trinidad, and then CDMA would organize, and other regional and international entities will provide assistance for the country
and respond accordingly.
That's right.
Yeah. So because one of the things that we have had to our plus, I want to see, is that whenever we have a thing come through the island, whether it's flooding, disaster, through a hurricane, we don't have a lot of deaths, from the event, which is a positive thing, which to me says that there is some level of preparation with the average man, and of course your response to what happens. So I think that is something that is positive, and we should highlight. It's not only about the negative things and so on, but we, as a small country, we don't hear something pass through and we lose 40 people, 50 people.
Well, public education and information, all right? So we did well, Beryl. What we have also done, enhanced our emergency communication capability among staff and volunteers and shelters. So before the event, we've acquired radios. All right. So before the event, we were able to pass message instead of depending on the cell phones or email or so forth. We have handheld radios that you can make one broadcast, and everybody across Grenada, Carriacou, Petite Martinique hear that broadcast. So we have improved.
Excellent. So very good. Very good.
Chris, I always think about we have NAGMA, but the community, the people. A lot depend on us individually, families and otherwise. We hear a lot about having your individual plan. We heard just yesterday, before, there was a tree in Monlon that fell on a house, a mango tree. It was obviously close to the house. It could have killed people. It did not. But what are the kind of things that communities could do, individuals must do? Yes, not everyone can afford to insure their homes, for example. But what are your advice when we talk about be prepared? I mean, what are the bottom line in this preparedness? In a simple way, what are we asking of persons in the community?
Individuals, households, trimming trees, cleaning your drains, cleaning your gutters. But what we have done, we have tried to empower our district committees. We have 17 of them. All right, and so what we've done, we've provided each district committee with 2 generators. So after an event, you don't have to come to headquarters. You have 2 generators. We've provided them with chainsaws. We've provided all the police stations with chainsaws. Okay, and so we
for road access.
That's right. All the police stations have. So Ministry of Infrastructure, we've provided them with chainsaw. Ministry of Agriculture. So we have provided equipment across the country to strengthen our district committees, all right? And when these committees are strengthened and the people in the communities work with the district committees, I think we'll have better response across Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique if there's an event.
I have to take a short break now, so I want to ask viewers, we'll be right back.
Laboratories, providing quality care and expertise. Fit for life and allied laboratories. laboratories. See our in-house doctors and our pharmacies. Get expert care and quality tests. When it comes to your health, you deserve the best. Fit for life and allied laboratories. We're taking care of Grenada.
Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, Sunday, June 8, 2025 at Ariza Car Park. Get ready for Unbothered Brunch. Unbothered Brunch, the throwback edition where nostalgia meets elegance. This isn't just any brunch. It's the brunch of brunches. Get ready to relive the golden days. Immerse yourself in timeless hits and experience a vibe so smooth, so unforgettable. It'll have you reminiscent in style. Featuring live from Trinidad and Tobago, the incomparable Ding Dong. Viking Ding Dong. And from Grenada, the soca champion, Blacker Dan.
See my ex with a new man. He day up and leave us a blessing. A blessing.
Along with Rita and the Ultimate Perfection Band. Brace yourselves for an iconic food-inclusive affair. Unbothered, the brunch. Secure your tickets now at all available ticket outlets and online at gotofed.com. Early bird tickets are $200. General admission $250. Cabanas are $2,500 for the ultimate brunch indulgence. Unbothered time 4 p.m. to midnight. Don't just hear about it, be there. Sunday, June 8th. Unbothered, unforgettable, unmatched.
The Mass officially starts now as Spice Mass Corporation together with Aura Caribbean is turning up the thing all the way up with Carnival City Fusion Thursdays. It all kicks off on Thursday, May 29th and continues every Thursday into June. We're bringing the vibes to the Port Louis lawn. Gates open 7 p.m. Action starts 8 p.m. Get ready for live performances from your favorite soca, groovy and calypso artists, plus the sweet sounds of steel band, live bands, and all the mass elements you love. Veko, Jab Jab, Shortney, Mokojumbi, Apache, and more. It's more than a line. It's a whole carnival experience. So grab your crew, bring the energy, and come let's celebrate where culture meets pure excitement. Carnival City Fusion Thursdays, Port Louis Lawn, beginning May 29th and continues every Thursday into June. Come, let's play a mass, cause the thing start.
Welcome back, viewers. We're here with Dr. Terence Walters, head of NAGMA. A question from a viewer. They're asking about the generators. They asked what quantities of generators were sent to Carriacou and Petit Martinique.
You're asking what quantities?
Yeah, what quantities.
Okay, and like I said, 2 per district. Carriacou is 1 district,
yeah.
Petit Martinique is 1 district. Right, so that's for our district committees.
So there's 2 in Carriacou and 2 in Petit Martinique. So that's clear.
Yeah.
Fine. The International Organization of Mitigation has noted the Caribbean as the 2nd most disaster region, prone region in the world. So we are high up there. So it's not like, Chris, you know, it's like, well, it may or may not. We are there. It's going to happen, and it's happening. So given the frequency and the intensity of disaster in the region, how does NAGMA coordinate with regional bodies like CEDIMA? How does it do that? How does it work?
All right, so we're part of the CEDIMA system. We are one of the participating countries, okay? So there are 19 participating countries, and like I mentioned before, the sub-regional focal point for the south is Trinidad and Tobago. And in the south, we have Grenada, Trinidad, Suriname, and Guyana, those southern countries. And as part of CEDIMA, so we pay into the CDMA system, and we participate in all of the meetings. So there's the CDMA Technical Advisory Committee for all the coordinators. There is also the Management Committee, which is for all the permanent secretaries responsible for disaster management. And then there's the Council, right? The Management Council, which is for the ministers responsible for disaster management. So Grenada does cooperate excellently with the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agencies and a number of other regional and international organizations like UNDRR, right, with the United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction Center. So we cooperate, we collaborate, and we participate in the activities.
So are there protocols for cross-border collaboration in case of simultaneous regional disasters, let's say?
Yes, because CDMA is talking a lot about multi-country, okay, multi-country impacts. And we have a few countries that are multi-island: Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, Antigua, Barbuda, okay, yes, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Turks and Caicos Islands, and so there are the multi-island states, and so we have had multi-state impact like we had with Beryl, with St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada. So yes, there is a lot of talk about how we respond, and CDMA is currently reviewing, you know, its response, because previously you had, you know, one storm here, one storm there, but now you realize, like with Beryl, you have two states impacted and several small islands, so that we have to have
this. Well, one of the issues pertaining to disaster management is early warning systems. How robust are your early warning systems, especially for rural and hard-to-reach communities? Tell us about those communication and how is that system designed to reach? Because that's one of the things, Chris. If you don't have the information, if you don't know early, you can't really do the
communication system that they have.
Yeah. So like we said, the communication system. So we use what is available. The social media platforms, radio, television, email, WhatsApp, you know, all of those. We use what is available to get to these people. And then if we're doing television broadcasts, we try to have somebody doing sign language. And then we use our district committees to reach the people in the various communities. All right. So when we broadcast to our district committees across Grenada, we have 17 districts. Okay. And then they are then tasked with getting to people
and the information flow backward and forward. What is happening in the community? Where there is disaster worse than other areas.
That's right.
I want to ask a question on security. I know you mentioned it earlier slightly, but security for us, whenever a system creates a disaster, is a major issue. I remember years after Ivan, we had said that we must have a special police security group set aside. Their families looked after so they could do their work. And after Ivan, a big concern was the looting that happened. We didn't have that in Beryl apparently, or if it was very low-keyed. But what is the security approach for disaster and how we deliver that? Okay, people can get very sensitive if the police decide they're getting firm and strict about certain things.
Okay, so like we had with Beryl, you first impose a state of emergency.
Right.
Then that gives you special powers. Okay, you have special powers to then impose a curfew and all of that. And then the Royal Grenada Police Force will have its special powers to ensure that they implement whatever
and effect what they have to do. Yes,
that's right. And like I said, one of the things is that we protect our critical assets, our critical facilities, ensure that we have people deployed in advance to protect these these facilities. You have to do that so that after the event, you have resources available for the population. If it's looted out, then you're in trouble. You're depending on outside, to come in. All right, but once you have, I saw it in Tortola in 2017. They protected all the supermarkets. All of those buildings were intact.
Secured.
Secured, okay? So people had food, people had water, so you didn't have to worry about those things.
So, for example, we have one major port here and a subsidiary one in Grenville, but Port Authority will be, and the pier will be a critical area for protection.
That's right.
Because you need to have ships coming in and whatever.
Yes.
So that is going to be a critical area.
Those are critical areas that you need to protect, okay?
And our population must know that if there's a disaster, expect state of emergency, expect curfew, expect the security forces to do what they have to do
Yeah.
That's right.
and not complain.
That's correct. That's correct. Like we did with Beryl.
Yeah.
State of emergency.
Yeah.
So the government had the
Control,
ability
yeah.
to do what they needed to do.
Yeah. This is not about politics. This is
No.
about survival.
No, that's
Yeah.
right.
Look,
That's
so we
right.
talk about the pre-disaster early warning, and of course the supply and food and clean water and supplies generally. Let's look at Beryl and Carriacou. That seemed to have been, I'm not going to use the word a disaster, but it seems not working in terms of the overload, the coordination there with the food, everybody wanted supply. What lessons learned from the Beryl operation, particularly in the supply, not the rescue and relief operation, we come to that, but the supply of food and clothing and immediate drinking water. So,
Now, one of the things I want to say here is that a disaster, right?
Yeah.
So you define it as a situation where your society or your country is overwhelmed
yes.
and you require assistance from elsewhere.
Mhm.
So there will be chaos.
Okay. Okay, so you say
So
that's
if you-
given?
That is given.
It's a given.
It
So
is
you have
a
to manage
given.
the chaotic situation,
Thank
that's what
you.
you say.
That is when you have a disaster. If things are normal and flowing nicely, you don't have a disaster.
No, but the disaster is the destruction.
Hey?
I'm glad you raised it.
Yeah.
I see the disaster as the destruction, the damage of houses.
No, that's part of it.
Yeah.
But
So you're saying
declare
that
disaster
the response is a disaster?
No.
But that's,
If you have
normalcy
all your structures
is cut off.
if
normal,
you have systems,
if you have all your
to manage
structures,
them,
yeah, right?
to manage the relief, yeah.
If you have all your
Okay,
systems,
I'm listening.
If you have all your systems running normal, everything is okay. I mean, yeah, you have some destruction, but everything is running normal. You don't have a disaster because you don't need any assistance from outside. But in the case of Beryl, we needed assistance from elsewhere.
Which relief? Can you manage the relief? That's the question.
Right, yes. And we did manage the relief in Carriacou. Now, it may not have been managed to everyone's expectation. Good? Because there will be loopholes. Remember, Carriacou is a small country.
Yeah.
We only have a staff of 3
Yeah.
in Carriacou, so you're depending on volunteers. And we have to send people from mainland. And then again, that's the issue with the multi-island state. Okay? And
Especially
it's a
where the
small
housing
country.
stock in there,
And
where
then
people
there's
stay.
transportation
Yeah.
issues. Remember, one small aircraft, your airport damage, private vessels, the Coast Guard can only hold a certain amount. So you had all those issues to contend with. Okay? So in my estimation,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, we handled it well.
So, but given the experience, what are you going to do different? What are the lessons learned from Carriacou? Not
Right.
limited to because you have issues of garbage disposal, how you manage post-disaster shelter, and all of those things. What are you going to do different, given your experience in Beryl and Carriacou?
Yeah, so there are some areas that we have to look
Right,
at.
yeah.
Look at improving our
Right,
shelter management
yeah,
structure.
yeah.
Again, that's volunteers.
Yeah.
So if your volunteers are impacted, houses gone, family, etc., you know what's happening there. They wouldn't show up. So then you have to depend on other people who are probably not trained
Yeah.
to assist with managing the shelters.
Yeah.
Communication
Yeah.
was an issue because
Yeah.
the providers, okay, they went down and our radio system went down and you could not get communication the same night. Even our satellite phones, because of the thick cloud cover, we could not, get through and so forth. So communication is one area that we have to look at. But then we have to also look at our transportation among the islands. That's an area that we need to strengthen.
Okay.
Private boats. No, we only have one boat because the other one is on a reef somewhere.
Yeah, at Point
right?
Celine, yeah.
We have one, and so you know the challenges that can come when you have one boat and you have to send up all the relief. We've learned some lessons with the receiving relief supplies and sending up. Right, we've learned some lessons with that that we're discussing with the Relief Management Committee. So there are a number of areas. We did an after-action review, a local after-action review, and so some of the lessons. I can't list all here now, right? But those are some of the general areas. And we have to strengthen our staff. I mentioned staffing earlier on.
Yeah.
We have to strengthen our
One of the
staff.
things that came up was in the buried relief, a lot of people were complaining that things were coming into the country and they wanted to charge duties on certain things and you had to come to your organization to get exemptions and so on and so forth. Is there anything there that we could do differently to make the operation more efficient in terms of organizations sending in a container of water or whatever And if you don't go and the paperwork is not done by you, it stays there and it's problematic. Is there something we can do to improve that?
So again, the issue of people wanting to take advantage of the situation. So we have to be mindful of that, because you know people will take advantage of that situation where you can just bring in things, right? And we had one person brought in a barrel, and when we went with them to look at what was there, it was car parts and so forth. It was relief. They were coming with relief, all right, car parts and so we have to be mindful of that. And so that's one of the things that we have to look out for and ensure that anything that's coming in comes through.
Meets the relief standards, what we call as relief.
That's right.
But in terms of the efficiency, and again, you need bodies.
Right, you need bodies, you need people at the port to clear and all of that. And we had the issue of people just sending relief and no paperwork. So you can't just go to the port and take it. All right, but there's no paperwork to get it through, and so there were a number of issues there.
Artificial intelligence, social media, where you could have fake information. Is NAGMA looking at that? How it's going to manage this? Of course, you may tell people, look, just listen to the official word, but we're humans, and this is very attractive. What are your plans for minimizing, reducing the implications of fake information?
We said to people, information is available from everywhere. Okay?
Yeah.
So you look, you filter, but the official information comes from the National Disaster Management Agency. So even if you see something on social media and when you look at NADMA, you get the same information. All right? NADMA is the official source. So we try to encourage people, please refer to NADMA. You get information elsewhere, refer to NADMA to make sure to verify your information before you share. As
we face the reality of more severe and unpredictable natural hazards, what's your message to the people of Grenada? What are the top priorities over the next year for improving national resilience?
So it's not a case of if this will happen, or it's not a case in the next 20 years, in the next 50 years, okay? We know that it is becoming more frequent, more intense, these hazards more frequent, more intense, and as a people, we need to be more prepared year-round. We live in a in a multi-hazard environment where any of the hazards, both natural and man-induced, can occur at the same time. Last year we had the oil spill of Tobago. Okay, at the same time. So we can have these hazards occurring at the same time. So we've got to be prepared, and be prepared at all times, not just during hurricane season, okay, but at all times, year round.
We had just intense rainfall.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, just right.
We had a few of those last year.
Yeah, so we have to be prepared at all times for all of the hazards that can impact us.
Chris, any final?
No, Doc, I think, we complain about organizations and their response and what they do. I think NADMA is doing an excellent job. So compliment to you and your staff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we would not get it perfect, and we have to understand that. But we have to continue working in a direction that could reduce the impact as best as we can. So I want to say again, keep on doing what you're doing and keep pushing hard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Very much.
All the best. Yeah. Viewers, that's all the time we have. We want to thank you for being with us. Thank Dr. Terry Walters for being here, and the MTV technical staff. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.